Oh. How you going, guys? Can you all hear me? I might move this aside. I sort of want to see everybody. First off, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land as well. I acknowledge the Jarawar and the Barringam people as the traditional owners of the land, and I give honour and I pay my respects to my elders, both past and present. And I recognise and I accept the tremendous amount of sacrifices that were made for someone like me to be where I am today. And secondly, guys, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to come here today to take up 25 minutes of your life. That's right, 25 minutes. But this is 25 minutes of your life that you're never going to get back. So how you choose to deal with that is completely up to you. I will say this, guys, that if you buy into this, if you commit to what I'm selling you today, I guarantee you it's going to change your life. Or at the very least, it's going to change the way you think about it. And lastly, I want to say, guys, is that even though this speech was designed for and directed at Indigenous kids, it wasn't only meant for them. If you open up your minds, there's no reason why kids of all colours and creeds can't take something away from this. So if you feel like your life is on the downside of up right now, and you are struggling to see something positive right now, and take a big old slice of my life away with you. Because I guarantee you, it'll help you pull through anything that's pulling you down right now. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Thomas Draper, and I am a construction supervisor with the Drillings and Completions Department at Arrow Energy. And I'm here today, I guess, to talk a little bit about how I got my role at Arrow, but to talk mostly about where I've come from and how I got from there to here. Now, I'm not naive, guys. I'm not naive. I know that for some of you kids here today, what I've got to say, it's not going to touch base. It's just going to go through one ear and out the other. And you know what? That's okay. Not for me, it'll never be okay for me, but it'll be okay for you. Because for you, you'll be happy just to finish this day out. You'll be happy to go back to doing your schooling when it suits you. And when you finish there, you'll be happy to go and join the dole queue or to sign up for the pension. And you'll be okay with that because you'll never dare to dream. But in saying that, guys, there are others here, and there always are others, that for you, that kind of future is just not good enough. So for you, the story that I've got to say, it's going to go a lot deeper than your ears. It's going to force you to take a really honest look at your life, and it's going to challenge you to make some really, really tough choices about who you are and where you want to be. And for those of you kids that have the courage to rise up and to make a stand, all power to you, because you are a rose that grew from concrete. Now, I know that sounds pretty hard, guys, and I know it sounds pretty harsh, but I'm not here to butter you up. I'm not here to sugarcoat your life. Forget about walking a mile in your shoes. Forget about walking a mile in your shoes, guys. I've lived in them. I've sat exactly where you're sitting at in your life right now, and I know what needs to be done to chase your dreams. I was born in Moree in northwest New South Wales. I grew up on a mission just outside of town in a community riddled with drugs, alcohol, crime and violence. Now, growing up on that mission, I saw and experienced things that no kid should ever have to. But I'm not here to ramble on about how bad the place was, because for as much as I hated that place, I've got just as much love for it as well. It will always be my home, and beginning to learn my forefathers' language of the Gamilaroi people has only strengthened my connection with my land. But like I said, it was hard growing up in an environment that is built solely for killing dreams. Those sorts of places trap kids every day. And I guess one of the two main reasons why I'm not on the dole or sitting in a prison cell or rotting in a box, like so many of my friends and family that I grew up with, can be traced back to one man. His name's Peter Draper, and he's my dad. That's the reason why I get called Peter as well, because I am my father's son. He taught me from a young age the true value of hard work. He told me that in life, some people succeed because they are destined to, but most people succeed because they are determined to. He told me that if I wanted anything in this life, I had to get off my ass and work for it. He showed me a great work ethic. So at the age of 8, I started my first job, believe it or not, as a newspaper boy. Now, just because I had to pay for the papers myself just to sell them, basically I was only just working for tips. But I used to make around 20 bucks every morning, and for an 8-year-old kid, that was a hell of a lot of money. It was the first time in my life that I started to see the rewards of working. But growing up on a mission and growing up in that environment, people didn't like to see others doing well for themselves. They didn't like to see a rose grow from concrete. So for almost 2 years, I got the crap kicked out of me for having a paper route. But I didn't let that stop me. At the age of 10, I took up boxing training to learn to defend myself. And I put the same amount of effort into that as with anything else in life. I worked hard and I trained hard. And 5 Australian boxing titles later, nobody's ever picked on me since. My old man told me that the only thing that Murray and Koori kids should be fighting for is a better education, to take advantage of an opportunity that his generation never had. So I worked hard on my schoolwork. I did all my homework. And like anything that I worked hard for, the rewards came. I graduated primary school not only as a school captain, but as the first Indigenous kid to finish top of the class. I was the first black ducks of my region. That's an accomplishment I will always hold high, especially given the fact that no more than 30 years before that, my uncle was the first Indigenous kid in northwest New South Wales to attend a public school. As a kid, he endured one of the ugliest sides of mankind, as he was escorted to class by police. He, along with others, paved a way for what I could achieve. They paved a way for what you should achieve. Like I said, guys, I'm not here to sugarcoat you. I'm not here to butter you up. I'm here to tell you the truth. And the truth is, if you're Indigenous, there was a lot of blood spilt for you to sit in the classroom and get an education. If you don't believe me, guys, ask some of these older people here. They will tell you exactly how the score is. Now, I know some of you kids, you don't even realise that. You know what? It's never too late. But then there are others here who, like me, you simply just lost sight of it. When I left primary school, I left there with all these hopes and dreams of becoming a doctor or a lawyer. And moving up out of the mission to Toowoomba, I was sure I could pursue them. But when I hit my teenage years, I faced the same problem that all teenage kids face. Black, white, doesn't matter what colour you are. I faced the need to feel accepted. And it was there that I lost my way in a big way. I started hanging around the wrong crowds and I started doing things that I'd never dreamed of. But you know what? I'm not here to play the blame game because I know the buck stops with me. I refuse to blame my family and friends for the problems that I had because they were my problems. It was my problems with drugs and alcohol that I let become addictions. It was my fists covered in blood because I let violence rule my life. It was my choices that led me to break into people's homes and steal their cars and their belongings. And it was my behaviours that I let develop that led me to be on my last strike with authorities. It was only a matter of time before I ended up in jail with so many of my family and friends. It was a life that I felt trapped in. It was like quicksand, if you know what I mean. And I know some of you kids know exactly what I mean. It was a life that I wanted desperately to change, but I didn't know how. Until one day a complete stranger pointing me back in the right direction became the second reason for where I am today. I remember I was around the same age as you guys. I was sitting at the front of Village Fair, or it's called Garden Town today for those young kids. I was just sitting at the front and I was having a cigarette. And I tried my best to look cool, kind of like all the tryhards you see at the front of Grand Central now, or the ones you see hanging around downtown after dark. Yeah, that was me, real cool. But anyway, I was sitting there having a smoke and this lady walks up to me, complete stranger. She was a white lady, probably in her late 50s, early 60s, and she came up to me and she sat down next to me and she asked if she could bum a smoke. Now, I've never had a problem with sharing, so I handed her a smoke and I lit it up. And we got to talking. At first, it was just normal stuff in general. And then from out of nowhere, this lady hits me with a brick. She looks at me and says, "You were in a car crash, weren't you?" Now, to this day, I'll never know if she had talked to somebody who knew me or if she had heard about me. But the fact of the matter is that 3 weeks before I met this lady, I was in an accident. I was lying in an Ipswich hospital with my stomach cut open and pieces of my body intestines taken out because at about 2 o'clock in the morning one night, some mates and I, we were drunk and we were high. We thought it was a great idea to drive from Toowoomba to Brisbane at 2 o'clock in the morning. We made it down to Brisbane. Naturally, everything was closed. So we piled back in the car and we headed home. On the way home, we all fell asleep, including the driver. I woke up as we were heading off the road at 120 kilometres per hour. The car clipped a telephone pole and it started to roll. I reckon we flipped about 4 or 5 times before it smashed into a concrete culvert. Thankfully, nobody died that night, but we all suffered some pretty serious injuries. So I turned to this lady and I said, "I was in a car crash," and I asked her how she knew that. And then this lady looked into me. And she said, she looked into me and said, "Have you figured out why God has kept you alive yet?" And I remember a chill went up my spine, the hairs on the back of my neck standing. I said I'd never thought about it. And then immediately, as if to change the topic, this lady looks me up and down. She says, "You know what, you're a pretty good looking bloke. You should be a model." That's exactly what she said. And that's exactly what I did. I laughed my head off. I looked at this lady and I said, "The only woman who thinks I'm good looking is my mum." And she only probably says that because she's my mum. You know what this lady does? She stands up, crushes out her cigarette, looks at me and says, "Just think about it." And with that, she turns off and walks away. And I remember looking at her back as she walked off and thinking that that was the weirdest conversation I'd ever had in my life. I thought that lady was insane. I thought she was heading to Bailey Henderson right then and there. But you know what I did? I did exactly what she said. I thought about it. I thought about what she had said and her words haunted me. I spent most of my days and nights thinking about it until finally it dawned on me. Now I don't know whether she was an angel or not, but she definitely was a messenger of some sort on behalf of the big man himself, wanting to let me know that he wanted me to be a model. But not the kind you see on magazines or on billboards, the kind you see in life. He wanted me to be a role model, and that struck deep with me because I was at a point in my life where I didn't need anybody telling me that I was a loser. I already believed that. But here was somebody that wasn't looking at the kid I was. He was looking at the man I could become. Now, at the risk of telling you kids something you should probably already know, I'm going to tell you this anyway. Turn around and have a look at these people on the walls. People like Tracy. People like Stacey. Sorry, Stacey. Because I'm guessing that they're looking at you kids in exactly the same way. And they may not be aware of this, but they are playing a part in a much bigger picture. They're not afraid to invest their time or their emotions in you kids because rather see a lost cause, they see everything that you can be. But to get there, you'll have to make a choice to make a change. I decided to change my life. I made a decision right there and then that night to never use the colour of my skin or the circumstances of my life as an excuse for not succeeding. So I graduated high school, just with no honours, with no distinctions, only a deep regret for a wasted education. But I wasn't going to let that stop me. So while most of my schoolmates were on schoolies, walking the beaches of Surfers Paradise, I was walking from business to business, from job site to job site, begging people for work, asking for a labourer. I picked up work here or there, and when the work dried up, I kept going from place to place. I came to this one site and the carpenter came out to meet me. And I looked at this guy and I said, "Mate, you're not looking for a labourer." And I can still remember the look in this guy's eyes. He was impressed to see a young black kid get off his arse and look for work. He told me he wasn't looking for a labourer, but he was looking for an apprentice carpenter if I wanted it. And I snatched at the chance, guys. Now, I'll be honest, I grew up on a mission and it was pretty tough for me. But those 4 years of my apprenticeship were some of the hardest years of my life. I put up with a lot of racism from other workers, and I put up with a boss that ripped me off in every way that he could. And there were days that I didn't want to get out of bed, just like there's days where you don't want to get out of bed. But every time I made myself see the big picture, I kept telling myself it was only 4 years and I'd have a trade. It was only 3 years and I'd have a trade. Only 2, only 1 month, only 1 week, only 1 day. And finally the day came when I got my trade papers. And I remember sitting on my couch at home and bawling because I knew what I had poured into achieving them. The next day I went to work and one of the electricians that usually gave me a stick, he came up to me to share the latest black joke. And I grabbed this guy by the scruff of his neck. And I told him I was a qualified tradesman now, and that if he came up to me with that crap again, I'd punch a hole clean through him. Needless to say, nobody ever gave me a stick again, at least not to my face. I quit working with my boss, and I've worked for many builders over the years, and most of them still ring me up to come and do work for them because they were so pleased with my work ethic and the way I handled myself. I've helped build over 200 homes, easy. 4 included of my own. With the help of my wife, we've built and sold 3 homes together. We're living our 4th one now at Westbrook. And let me tell you something, when I go home from work every day and I put a key into a door that leads into a house that I own and that I've built with his own 2 hands, it gives me a sense of pride that is out of this world. I couldn't explain to you the way it makes me feel, but it kind of feels exactly the same way I felt as an 8-year-old kid holding $20 worth of chump change in my hand and knowing how hard I worked for it. You know what the best thing about having a trade is? You can work anywhere in the world. So my wife and I moved to England for 2 years, believe it or not. I signed with the rugby league team just outside of Manchester, and before I left, I looked them up on the web and I stated my terms. I said that along with match payments, I wanted a house, I wanted a car, and I wanted some work as a carpenter. Believe it or not, this silly club got back to me within a week and said it was all organised and to jump on a plane. So we headed over. I played with a team called Rochdale Mayfield in the winter amateur comp, and I played with a team called East Lancashire in the summer professional comp. Now, because I took a chance, guys, and I worked hard no matter what, I've been lucky enough to see more of this world than a kid from a mission could ever dream. I've sat in the Colosseum in Rome. I've walked where gladiators have walked. I've looked up the Sistine Chapel and I've marvelled at Michelangelo's paintings. I've floated through the streets of Venice and I've watched the sun setting from the Greek island of Santorini. I've looked out at Paris from the top of the Eiffel Tower and I've searched for the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland. I've sailed around the Caribbean. I've been to America, Canada, Thailand, and I've seen so much of this great country of ours that sometimes I think I need to pinch myself. But the one thing that grounds me in reality is knowing how much of my hard work and sweat I've poured into achieving the things that I have. So I guess the question I want to ask you guys is, if I can do it, why can't you? Come on, guys, if I can do this, why can't you? I'll be brutally honest again. I think that for some kids, black, white, Asian, whatever, you're just plain lazy. You'll always expect everything to be done for you in life. And I can guarantee you'll grow old and bitter because things won't get done for you. But I'm guessing for most of you, the reason's a little less obvious. I'm guessing that just like I was, you're scared. You're scared of failing. You're scared of putting in the hard yards, only to be told that you don't make the cut. Well, I'm here today to tell you that there is nothing wrong with that. You know what my old man used to tell me? He told me to set goals and aim high in life. He told me to aim for the sky, and the worst I'd ever end up doing is sitting in a tree. Do you understand what he's saying? Do you get the logic behind it? If it went over your head, let me break it down like this. Let's say if you wanted to be an astronaut, let's say an astronaut, just as an example, and you worked hard at it, you gave it everything you had, you put in 110%, and you failed miserably, the worst you'll ever end up doing is becoming an airline pilot for Qantas or for Singapore. Do you understand what I'm saying? Set goals in life and work hard to achieve them. And if you fail, that's the difference between stuck down here on the dole or actually doing something with your life. Be more afraid of not even trying, guys, because regret is a heavy burden that you kids will carry till you die. You know, before I got this job with Arrow, I applied for many jobs online. For over a year and a half, I kept coming home from work, uploading my resume to a lot of companies. I spent a lot of time on the phone to companies begging for a job, but I kept getting knocked back. But I didn't let it stop me. Earlier last year, I was building a set of units out at Oakey. So it started raining one morning, so I rang up the wife and asked her if she wanted to go down to Logan to a Careers Expo. So we loaded up the car and we went down. And I can remember going to almost every single store. All right, I wind it up. Now most people would say, I'm pretty lucky, guys, but ever since I was around your age, I didn't wait for luck to come to me. Do you understand that? I made the most of my opportunities, and most of the time I got off my ass and found them. Let me just say that I'm not perfect, guys. I've failed and struggled in areas of my life. But I've never stopped trying to be a positive example for underprivileged kids, both black and white, because I know how hard it is for you. So don't be afraid to ask for help, guys. Have a look at the people here. They are addicted to helping you kids reach their dreams, but it can never start with them believing in you. Because what they have to offer, it won't mean a damn thing unless you start believing in you. And you start making some of the tough choices in life. You know, of all my friends that have passed away or in jail, there's only one thing that separates me from them. Can anybody guess what it is? I'll tell you now. It's not the 2 inches of steel cage that surrounds them, or the 6 feet of dirt that engulfs them. The only thing that separates me from them is choices. And you can make a choice right here today about where you want your life to go. But let's not beat around the bush, guys. It'll be tough. It'll be tough because you'll be going against the grain. I guarantee you that there's kids sitting right next to you right now that don't want to do anything with their lives. And they'll do everything in their power to keep you at their level. That's a fact, guys. I've lived that. But if you make the tough choices and you push through the cracks, you will become a rose that grew from concrete. I know I mentioned that little bit of a saying a lot, guys, but it's actually from a poem that has helped me stick to the hard road in life. If you're not into poems, too bad, you're going to hear it anyway. The poem was written by Tupac Shakur and it's called The Rose That Grew From Concrete. And it goes, did you hear about the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete? Proving nature's laws wrong, it learned to walk without having feet. Funny it seems, but by keeping its dreams, it learned to breathe fresh air. Long live the rose that grew from concrete when no one else ever cared. You see, you would not ask why the rose that grew from concrete had damaged petals. On the contrary, we would celebrate its tenacity. I might come back one day and talk to all you Indigenous kids maybe, but listen guys, the main idea of why I'm here today, it's I'm not here to talk to the weak guys, really. I know this is going to be tough if you want to do something with your life, but I'm not here to talk to the weak. I'm here to talk to the strong. I'm not here to find followers, guys. I'm here to find leaders. Because if there's anything that we as Indigenous people need more than anything else, it's leaders. Make a choice to make a change, and who knows, hopefully one day most of you will be standing right where I'm standing, trying to convince a bunch of students to become everything they should be. Thank you.
Awesome. Cheers, mate.